All right, listeners, welcome back to another episode of A Hunter's Legacy. If you've been listening, this will be the first podcast we do an intro. I'd like to think we're the only hunting podcast that hands the mic over to the regular everyday hunters and gives them an opportunity to share their story. And essentially, we're ditching the pros for the average Joes. We're hitting a new state today. We're in North Carolina. We got Cody Triplett, a father. He's married with an 11-year-old daughter, and his favorite thing to do is weld and run heavy equipment at the local rock quarry.
I wouldn't call it my favorite thing to do, but it passes the time for sure.
You got to get those paychecks in so you can hunt.
Yeah, that's it.
So I kind of touched a little bit on who you are, but if you could spend a little more time covering what you do, a little more at work and hunting is probably the only fun thing you do, but what else do you enjoy doing?
Like he said, uh, met my wife a couple years ago. I traveled for work for several years, and she kind of put the brakes on. She's like, "Hey, we're done traveling for work. We're going to settle down. You're going to find a job here." So I went out to. We've got three local rock quarries, and I went out to I guess the closest one to my house and talked to them. They hired me pretty much on the spot. I've welded and run heavy equipment for them since. I've worked there for 2, 3 years now. Um, yeah, my daughter she's going to be a year old. She's 11 months old yesterday. She's going to be a year old in March. And she's just as crazy about deer as I am. So I don't think there's any purpose for any kind of DNA test. My wife likes to pick at me. She's like, I wonder who the daddy is. And whenever she's looking at my shoulder mounts, grabbing a hold of them, playing with them stuff. So let's see. I live in small town Appalachia. We got 3 stoplights in the whole county. I mean, it's as small town as anywhere else in the world, and it's rough country, really mountain or very mountainous, and not a lot of crop, more Christmas trees than anything else. And it is what it is. You take care of your local crackhead and everything else like everywhere else in the world. So it's fun out here.
There are a lot of ginseng where you're at.
You used to be, not so much. There ain't so many people after ginseng anymore, but there used to be a bunch.
Crackheads took it all.
The old timers that were growing it died off, and no one took it back over, or just everybody lost interest, and it's not making as much money as it used to. I don't know, but every once in a while I'll go knock on a farmer's door to see if I can hunt, and he'll be like, "No, I got some ginseng back in there in them woods. I can't have you in there messing it up." So it's still around, just not as common as it used to be.
I always get a kick out of those TV shows where, like moonshiners, where they're doing all this
Yeah.
illegal stuff, but they got professional cameras following them around. How's that?
Oh yeah. I ain't never got it and understood it. I know plenty of guys that still run a steel even today. I mean, I grew up in a holler that had a steel run up to the top of it. We had a spring head coming out of the side of the mountain. And I remember whenever I was a kid, my mom took me up there and she said, this is where they used to run their moonshine at. They were straight out of I think they turned it into a well, but it's a big spring head in the side of the mountain. Great place to deer hunt.
Your mom's taking you back there to teach you how to do moonshine?
Well, she never taught me how to do it, but she's one of the people that taught me how to hunt. She killed a deer that's bigger than anything I've ever killed, and she gave the mount to a friend. Big mainframe 8-pointer, and I bet it scored 155. Huge.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So is your mom the one that taught you how to hunt?
She's taught me how to read the woods and find deer. My uncle taught me, bow hunting and stuff like that. But my mom, I don't give her enough credit. She has taught me the majority of how I like to hunt now.
I don't want to cross into sensitive terrain, but was your dad?
He passed away whenever I was little. He was he was crazy about deer hunting, but I was 5 years old whenever he passed. So I didn't get to experience any of that stuff. So I'm sure if he was still around, we'd be running around all over the US trying to find over the counter public land to go hunt and stuff. But I'm doing it pretty much by myself now. So
Sorry to hear that. I know you probably spent a lot of time wondering what it was like to hunt with your dad.
yeah, yeah, it I think about it a lot, especially whenever I'm in like grind mode, whenever it's, late October, up to middle of November and I've hunted 14 days straight. I'm like, man, what would it be like if he was here with me? How much less would this suck if he was still hanging out? But it's a comforting thought to know that I enjoy doing the same thing that he enjoyed doing.
When we were texting earlier, you mentioned something about the only thing you talk about is hunting and family. So that kind of makes
Yeah,
a little more sense now.
yeah, yeah. I've got a pretty tight group of friends. I'm probably 5 or 6 friends that I talk to throughout the year, and it's, hey, you seeing any shed bucks? Hey, what's the velvet bucks doing? Hey, did you see this buck on this road in the county? Or hey, where you hunting at? I want to hunt over here. That we share a lot of the same properties or neighboring properties to one another, so we're always talking back and forth, and it's through hunting season, shed season, turkeys, pretty much all year round.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear that. And you're probably the first one that I know some other people had moms that hunt, but to hear that your mom was the one that kind of got you started. Was she hunting with your dad?
I think they, I don't think they hunted together. I think one person went here, the other person went here, and they kind of hunted different because my mom, she hunts. I don't know if y'all have uh like laurel thickets. That's a common thing for my areas. We have mountain laurel, which is just a viney bush and then you can't kill it, you can't break it, but these bucks will run the edges of these laurel thickets. Well, she take during rifle season, she'd go sit on the ground and hunt in these thickets. And my dad was more of a tree stand hunter on oak ridges and stuff, so they would hunt completely different to one another.
And so she is probably pretty big hunter. I wonder if she was a hunter before she met your dad.
Think the big buck that she had mounted was before they got together.
Use that to win over your dad.
I might have been.
So let's go back to your younger years when your mom first started taking you out. Was she just going out hunting and taking you with? How'd that work?
I need to back up a little bit. My whole family, my dad's side of the family, they were all hunters. Bow season was our bow season comes in early, so I'd see the truck parked at the edge of the wood line next to my house, and I knew somebody was up there hunting. So I'd always, as a kid, I'd run up to them whenever they got out of the woods. Hey, did you kill one? Because I was infatuated with it. My uncle, he was the family killer. He killed 2 big deer every year, no matter what. And I'd always just wait and wait and wait. And whenever he'd get home, I'd run up there to my family. We all shared a hillside whenever I was growing up. I'd run up to their house. Did you kill one? Did you kill one? And if he didn't, I'd go to my next uncle's house and ask him and my older cousins if they killed one. If they didn't kill one, I was at the next house asking them. So whenever I was growing up and I was finally old enough to go, my mom, she would take me on the side of this mountain and she'd find a spot like in a brush pile and we'd set in it. And every time we go, we always seen a bunch of deer and they'd funnel off this mountain down into this valley or in this holler opening. And I'd either shoot one or I wouldn't. The first buck I shot was with my mom. I was young. I was, I don't know, 12-ish years old. And at 12 years old, you're still kind of learning your mobility. I can't just like sit down on the ground without like falling over still. And this buck, he came in, I had doe pee all over me. That was back, in my opinion, back whenever doe pee was still real. And he came in all rutted up, and I was trying to sit down on this log and basically just fell down. And my mom sat down in front of me, and I threw my rifle up on her shoulder, and she got to laughing. And she leaned back. She said, "Don't shoot." She covered her ears, and I threw that gun up, and I was so rattled whenever I shot. I was aiming at his front shoulder, and I hit him in the like square in the neck. And that was my first buck ever, and I did shot him with my mom.
She told you not to shoot, man.
Yeah, she was trying to cover her ears, and I was shaking so bad that she got to laughing at me. That buck just stood there staring right at us. I had a big ghillie suit on. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought it looked cool, so I wanted to wear my ghillie suit. And he couldn't figure us out. I guess never did bust. It probably took 5 minutes for the whole shot sequence to happen, and he stood there the whole time staring at me.
Listening to your mom giggle.
Yeah, she was laughing. She was almost in tears. She was laughing so hard.
And you were about 12 when this happened?
Yeah, between 11 and 13, somewhere around there. I can't really. It's been so long since that happened. I can't remember how old I was.
Before you shot your first deer, were you going out and tagging along with people? Maybe not hunting, but maybe just kind of watching?
So whenever I was little, my uncle had a place where he baited. My state's a bait state. So, back in the day, everybody, I mean, they still do it, but he had this big feeder up in the woods that he had mounted to a tree. And I'd ride the four wheeler up there with him and help him throw corn out and then ride back. Well, I found where his ladder stand was at. So whenever I was a kid, I'd sneak out of the house and go up in the, it wasn't couple hundred yards away from my house, I would sneak up and get in that ladder stand, and I would just sit there and see what deer would come out and stuff. But I never, after or before my mom took me, I didn't ever really go with anyone.
That's interesting. You knew you wanted to go, but
Yeah,
your mom taught you a little bit, but you didn't really have that true mentor.
yeah, yeah. I actually hunted that ladder stand for several years. And I never hunted anywhere else. That was the only place that I'd go hunting. And in high school and stuff, I would go either after school or on the weekends. If it was deer season, if I had the time to be up there, that's where I would go.
I think I hunted the same stand every time for about 5 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was actually during the rut, an awesome stand to sit in. I've shot several bucks out of that one ladder stand, but I don't know if it was just kind of meant to be or I just got lucky or what, but there'd be times I would go up there and hunt and I would see 50 deer in one sit.
Are you sure?
Oh, well, I would see 50 deer. It might have been the same deer 5 times, but growing up, to me, every deer that comes in was a new deer. So I'd always count them as, oh, there's one, there's one, there's one, and then they'd go off and then come back. Oh, there's three more. Probably just the same ones every time, but
I laugh because I always look back to when I was first starting hunting, like, why don't I see deer that big anymore? Well, they probably weren't that big. I just thought they were at the time.
yeah. Funny story, I actually went back over there and hunted in that area, 2 years ago and almost shot my biggest buck from that very ladder stand. It was late November, and instead of taking a gun with me for gun season, I took my bow. I've bow hunted generally all year. It was a big 9 pointer. This deer was all over 160. He was huge. And I've got this blurry little video of him moving his head in the brush, and he was at 80 yards. If I had a gun, I could have killed him. But it was out of the very same tree stand that I grew up hunting out of. I almost had him.
How long were you rifle only before you started picking up a bow?
Just a few years. My uncle was actually the one that got me a bow, and it was the old PSE. I can't remember what it was called, but I started bow hunting whenever I was 16 years old. I wasn't very good with it. I shot more deer in the shoulder than I knew than I could keep up with. Like at that age, I'm like, man, I suck at this. I'm done hunting with a bow. I'm gonna just gun hunt. And my mom ended up buying a crossbow, and I hunted with it for just a little bit. I never pulled a trigger on that thing. Um, and once I grew up or became an adult legally, I joined the army and moved off after that. So I didn't hunt for a few years.
Do you think your younger years of hunting, you learned any lessons that are still with you today?
Oh yeah. Um, I was actually thinking about this a few days ago. Um, it was one of them days I was hunting in that ladder stand, and I was hunting by myself. I had my bow with me. It was bow season, and I it might have been late September, early October. It had been raining all day, and the rain broke, and I was able to get up and get in stand. Well, I was sitting there and hadn't seen a single deer, and I heard just that snap, and I turned around and looked behind me, and I have this 8 pointer. I don't know how big he was, maybe 100-inch 8 pointer standing behind me. And I thought the year before, because I had grunted a buck in, I was like, oh, all right, I got a buck. He was within 10 yards. But he got behind a tree, and I'm like, I'm going to grunt him in. I had that grunt call, and that deer took off running. And I said, took that grunt call, and I threw it as far as I could. I said, I ain't never doing that again. So I learned, don't call too early, especially whenever they're within 10 yards of you.
He was within 10 yards of you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
What were you trying to do, man?
Try to get him out from behind the tree so I could get a shot at him. I didn't know if I'd just waited a minute, he'd probably stepped out on his own. But I was like, I'm gonna grunt him in, and he's gone. I was like, oh man.
Well, you probably knew you were there.
I think thinking back to the way that particular stand worked, the thermal pull down into the where I walk in at, he had to have walked right up my scent trail straight to the stand. I don't know how he made it so close, but you could thinking back on it, like he was pretty on edge. He was moving really slow. He knew something was up, and me hitting that grunt call was the trigger for him, and he's out of there.
Well, where's that grunt coming from up in the tree?
Yeah, yeah. He heard that, and he didn't waste no time to get out of there. And I was so mad. That was like the first buck encounter I'd had with a bow, and I was so mad. I was sick.
Well, the real question is, did you go recover your grunt tube?
Nope. Nope. It's still up there in that holler somewhere. You have to dig it out of the foot of leaves that it's buried under now. Somebody will find it whenever, if they ever sell it off and decide to timber all of it, somebody will find it.
Do you still use a grunt tube or never have?
Oh, yeah. So I love calling. I've killed more bucks calling than I think any other way. 3 of the 4 deer that I killed this year, I called them in.
Really?
So, yeah, I still use it, and I use it a lot. It's crazy, I know, but that one time it messed me up, and then several years later, I grunted a buck in, and I was like, okay, maybe I do enjoy calling deer in.
Is grunting or rattling more successful where you're at?
It's a toss up. Um, for us, it's really you got to hit the nail on the head for calling sequences. I've rattled in 2 really big deer. I shot one in the shoulder and didn't recover him, and then this year, actually, it was the biggest deer that I was hunting, and this was in Virginia, which I live on the Virginia line, so it ain't but I don't know 5-ish miles away from my house. And this deer is the biggest deer I've ever seen locally to my area. And I rattled him in. He was coming in off this steep mountain out of a laurel thicket. He's coming down this steep ridge, and he started getting a little weird because he could see everything from where I was at. He couldn't see the bucks that were fighting. So he's kind of getting a little sketched out. And then the neighbor, probably 300 yards away, shoots a muzzleloader. Now he didn't shoot at the deer, but he was shooting something. The neighbor was hunting too. This is muzzleloader opened, I think, November 3rd in my area. So they shot, and that buck hated it. He was gone. But the rattle brought him into sight for me. But grunting, the first buck I killed grunting was November 1st. This was a brand new property. I'd never set foot on it. I scouted it once, found some killer sign, set up a stand for it, and it was my first morning hunting there. I knew it was going to be pretty good because it had rained that whole week before. And it was a cold front. It was like textbook perfect rut morning. I had this 8-pointer behind me. Now, like I said, I don't know anything about this property. I just put cameras on it for like 3 days. No cell service, so none of them sell cameras. I have no idea what's there. This 8-pointer's coming up. He's 110 inches, 115-inch 8-pointer. I'm like, he's going to get it if he gets up here. And he starts walking around behind me, and he shoots down the hill. I get my grunt call, and I grunt, snort, wheeze at him. He never turned around. Then I heard this crashing come down this hill beside of me. And I look, and right in the middle of this laurel opening, I see a white face and a big frame. And I said, oh my God, that is a big deer. And he stood there and looked for a minute, and then he shot back up the hill, and I heard him snort wheeze, and I said, all right, I'll play your game. And I grunted and snort wheeze back at him, and he stringed straight under my tree. And I shot him at 3 or 4 steps straight down. I mean, straight down. The next day, I'm back in North Carolina, and there's a buck. I let him walk once before, but I have a rule. If he gets crazy during the rut, and you know, if you're grunting at me, snort wheezing at me, and you do it a lot, chances are you're not going to make it. Chances are really high that if you give me a shot, you're probably going to get killed. And this buck, I wish I had kept count, but he snort wheezed at me probably 20 times. And I caught him in from over 100 yards out. And I grunt, grunt, grunt. And then he grunt, snort wheeze. And I said, he's going to come over here eventually. And he finally worked all the way around, and he came straight into me, and he was all bristled up, pushing other deer around. And I was like, I know you're not really the one I'm after, but, and I let him have it. And that was the very next day. So I shot 2 bucks in 2 days just off of grunt calls.
How big was the one that you shot right under your tree?
Scored him at 136. And then the one I shot the next day went 127.
There you go.
So my area is not particularly known for growing deer to get much bigger than 130. Like, if you kill a 130 here, like, that's a big, big buck for us.
Well, you were throwing around some scores of your mom's deer, probably bigger than what I thought.
Yeah, that one, I seen an old picture of it several years ago, and this is whenever I was kind of getting the general idea of, you know, how big a deer is score wise. And my biggest buck is 157, and that 8-pointer frame wise is bigger than mine, but he's only an 8-pointer. So
Takes a pretty big 8-pointer to get that score.
yeah, there was one that me and a friend of mine was hunting. He actually ended up killing it, and it went high 140s, and it looked like it was fake. It was, I don't know. He didn't send me a scorecard, but I bet the G2s and G3s on that thing was over 15 inches.
Yeah, I haven't really got much out of Iowa. It's interesting that doesn't matter what state you're hunting in, there's probably big deer somewhere.
Yeah.
As I mention it all the time, I was talking to a guy from Louisiana, and I didn't think they had anything down there, and he's killed some stompers.
I think of like most of the big deer, like most of the hunting that I do is within my county, and I've got property in an area on one side of the county. There's at least one deer, pope and younger, bigger on it every year, maybe bigger. Like not, I'm not saying booner, but there's at least one deer around that's 140 class or bigger. And then I've got another property closer to like where the edge of the mountain is to go down into the foothills. I would say it's more like in the center of the county. And my biggest deer over there is probably 120. And it's been that way for forever. I actually hunted that property for one specific deer since 2021. And the biggest that he got, I shot him opening day in 23, and he might have been 115. And I was guessing him at like 6 or 7 years old. And that's just as big as he was going to get.
I guess there's just areas, whether it's the deer diet, the terrain, some
Yeah.
places just don't grow big deer.
Yeah. Um, which is what's shocking to me is, I said I hunt here and I've got one small farm in Virginia. Um, and I've hunted some public, there's a lot of public land close to me in Virginia. If you can find a buck on that public land, if you can find one, chances are he's going to be a stud, like 150, 160 class deer. And that's all big woods, no ag, low deer density. I mean, there's nothing up there that would make you think that it's going to grow big deer, and they're up there. But you come here, our deer density is a little better. We have a little bit of ag, or at least, you know, cattle fields. It's full of clover and stuff. Plenty of food for them to eat with a lot of acorns. And most of our deer don't get over 120. It's odd. And I hunted out in a piece of public out in Illinois for a few years straight, and every year I'd go out there, I'd get one buck on camera that was an absolute hammer.
Looking at all the years you've hunted, has your hunting style evolved? I know you started off with the rifle, but you've been using bow primarily for a lot of years. How do you think your hunting styles evolved?
So, like I said, starting off, I was set in the same tree for years, and I went off to the army. And right before I got out, I was in welding school, and I'd come home after class every day, and I'd put on Midwest Whitetail. That's kind of like the origin story for most guys, I feel like. I've watched the early seasons of Midwest Whitetail, and I was like, man, these guys are moving around a bunch. Daggone these guys. So that's what that is. Oh, that a scrape. I never knew what a scrape was before. I just knew what a rub was. I didn't know they pawed the ground out. And I kind of used what I was seeing on TV to throw it into my hunting. So I went out, got on Marketplace, bought a bunch of stands that I could find for cheap, went out and hung them up in spots. And I had a place opening morning one year. I had got permission to this little 15-acre piece, and I had a buck coming in every day for like acres and bait and everything that I had put out, and I missed him. I was like, oh no. Well, I missed on that same property. I missed two more deer there, and I went out and I bought this. It was what brand was a Hawk, uh, early Hawks. It was their big stand, and it came with a pack of sticks. And I don't know if you've ever messed with a like an early on hawk stand. I think they fixed it now, but it had like the old school strap where you had to feed it through and then cinch it tight on the buckle of it instead of like just like the I can't remember what they're called, the regular,
Ratchet.
not a ratchet, but like what's on most of the saddles and
Oh,
stands now, just like a regular cinch strap.
yeah, and it had a loop on the end, so you throw it around the button.
Yeah, this one it had hooks on both ends, and I had to like kind of work the strap in, cinch it down tight. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this mobile hunting thing. Well, I took that stand, it's heavy as crap, and I had my pack. I found this little pine tree to get up in, 3 sticks high up off the ground. I'm on this old logging road bed, and rattled my. I had a black rack back then. I rattled my horn so hard they broke. So I just like set them down, and then this buck came in. I'm like, oh man. So he came in, I shot him as the first buck with a bow since I'd got out of the army, and I was jacked out of my mind because I'd missed 2 bucks earlier that year. I was like, all right, mobile hunting it is. So the following year, still had that hawk stand, but I had moved some stands into better areas that I thought. And this was more before I figured out what funnels and terrain features and how they worked was I was just kind of going off of, you know, what I still watching on TV, field edges, maybe get in the wood, like hardwoods, just find a bunch of trails or something and set up there. I didn't consider that they were hunting, Iowa or the Midwest where the deer density is better. And I set up, wasn't seeing it, wasn't seeing it, wasn't seeing it. And then I finally just got tired of it, and I was like, I'm going to find out where these deer are at. So I just took off walking, and whenever I bump deer up out of a bed, that's where I hunt. I'm like, all right, well, they got to be here. This is where they're bedded at. So I hunted that way that following year and seen more deer, didn't kill more. That I think was the year that I killed my biggest, and I had actually hung a stand. There's this oak tree that I hunted out of. It was the biggest oak, it's a big white oak tree. The base of it was, I couldn't tell you how big. It's huge. And I had to get 25, 30 foot up into the tree to where I could just get a strap around it because it was so big. And I had actually set up down in this drainage below it in my mobile stand, and I didn't like how it was, and took a quarter and I flipped it. And it said to go up and hunt out of that tree, so I went up there, and that's whenever I killed my biggest one. But it's just that mobile part of it. But now, man, I hunt whenever it's good, not whenever. I don't know if it's my age now, I'm getting older or what, but I like to hunt whenever it's right, or, I've got consistent pictures of a buck there at a certain time. Um, and, just kind of taking a break and not beating your properties to death whenever it's not ideal weather.
Not hunting the same stand every day, twice a day.
Yeah. Now there has been times in the last 2 years where I have hunted the same tree for several days straight, but I was mostly hunting in low deer density areas where I wasn't doing no harm or any good just because the deer weren't there to begin with. I hunted a piece of public up in Virginia last year, and I was all over sign. I seen just as many rubs and scrapes as I would see out on public land in Illinois, but I would hunt in an area for like 4 or 5 days in a row and not see a single deer. I hunted up there for 2 months last year. Didn't I seen one spot, and that was all I seen. There are some spots that I've hunted. One side's like a flat oak ridge. Well, I say flat. It's all every nothing's flat here. Nothing. you might think that you're in a flat spot. Unless you're down in like a creek bottom, it's not flat. It's got a roll to it or like a draw to it. Like it just kind of gradually creeps one way or the other. Um, it's in some areas really, really steep. Um, think of like the lower part of like, say you take a picture or you see these guys hunting mule deer and it's like they're tracking up these steep hills and they're coming back down. That's put oak trees on it, and that's pretty much what it looks like here. Um,
You almost have to grab some trees to climb up. Is it that steep?
some places, yeah. Uh, a lot of guys use trekking poles. There's some guys that wear like baseball cleats, cause not only is it steep, the leaf foliage is 5 to 10 inches deep, and you step on the wrong spot, some of that leaf foliage, you're going for a slide.
Landmines.
Yeah, it's just as slick as ice is.
What do you think some of the biggest challenges you face hunting stuff like that?
Wind wind direction's always rough. It's never what the forecast says it's going to be. And I hunted up there for 2 days. My thermals would pull straight down this steep hill behind me. And if the wind didn't match that, it would I'd drop milkweed and the wind would push my milkweed out and then the thermal would catch it and it would come back and hit me and it'd pull it straight back down the hill. I'd watch a milkweed do circles in the air while I was sitting there. It was crazy.
I'm sure that doesn't present any challenges.
No, 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 man. I've been winded by more deer than I could keep count of.
There's only so much you can do.
Yeah,
Do you not hunt because the wind's swirling, or you take a chance?
I'm aggressive. And I don't have a box blind that I can hunt out of. So a lot of old timers out here, they got these big shoot houses that they hunt out of. They hunt on field edges and stuff. They only hunt during gun season, and they're you know 200-300 yards away, and that's how they shoot their buck every year. But man, I'm getting up as close as I can get, and what I've learned is there's no bad wind, there's just a bad tree. So I every time I get to a place that I want to hunt, I might have a tree that I want to hunt out of, but if my wind and thermals don't match those two things, I have to find a different tree, even if it's not ideal.
At least where you're at, yeah, you have more swirling winds, but there's only so many places a deer can walk.
Yeah,
If they're coming down a ridge, there's good chance that they're going to be coming down a certain trail. Where I'm at, it's dead flat, and I hunt a 40-acre timber, and on one side it might be 400 yards wide. There's between 15 and 20 different trails that they can come.
yeah. I struggled with that whenever I hunted in Illinois. I hunted a river bottom out there, and every deer I seen, they either walked under me, walked 100 yards away from me, walked skirted me just about 50 yards, and every deer that came in, I mean, they had just so many different ways that they could go. At least for me, I can kind of get close to their little funnel that they like to use and catch them there.
I had a TikTok saying, I'm a big believer in nose jammer. They're like, just hunt the wind. I'm like, I can only do so much, man. I
Yeah.
literally have no idea which trail they're walking down.
So, hot take: the guys that preach hunting the wind so much are also the same guys that have these beautiful manicured places. And I get there's some public land guys that hunt just based off of the wind, but I'm going to stick to I'm going to find the right spot and find the tree once I get there based off of the wind. Because I've had guys tell me, "Man, hunt the wind." I can't hunt the wind. If you figure out how to hunt the wind out here, be my guest. But I'm not hunting out of like these nice stands or shoot houses on these big, beautiful plots that you've spent all summer making. And you know the deer's going to come out in this corner. You got your scrape post here in this front corner. right in your shooting lane. Man, I can't do that here. That's just my opinion.
It's not like there's a big high fence with one opening and I hunt on this
Yeah,
side if the wind's out of this way or this side.
yeah,
It's just so flat that there might be 40 trails on a 400-yard timber edge.
yeah, yeah. And I would say for like a timber edge that's flat like that, I would just find the buck sign and just kind of go off of that. And if you got a big hot scrape, I'd sit in that spot until I figured out what tree would work.
I thought I was going to do the deer a favor and mow this. I spent like 3 days mowing this nice trail. The does use it. The bucks, they don't give a damn. They'll walk through that
No,
stuff.
yeah, they'll bulldoze. I don't know how they do it, but they'll go straight through the nastiest part of it and without any trouble, and they'll get to the other side. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
What's the culture like where you're at? Is I know some parts of the country, 90% of the people hunt. Is is it hunting culture pretty big where you're at?
It's not as big as it used to be. And I think that's just because the older generation that is, I hate to put it this way, but they're dying out and they're either giving their land to their kids and their kids are selling it or they're leasing it for guys that's out of town to come up and hunt it that way. It's still really popular, especially gun season comes in. We've got a gun season that's insane. It comes in the first Saturday in November to January 1st, and it's 2 weeks of muzzleloader, and then the rest of it's rifle season. So it's once gun season hits, there's more people in the county than I see all year. Um, Bow hunters, there's not many of them. It's me and my friend group that I've got. We bow hunt. There's a couple other guys that I know in the county that bow hunt, but it's nothing like it is in the Midwest. Now, gun season comes around. I'm without a doubt wearing my blaze orange out because I feel like there's a gun barrel in every tree, but whenever, whenever it's bow season, it's pretty quiet.
How do the seasons line up? You said gun opens up November 1st. When is archery?
Archery's the second Saturday of September. So it can be from around like the 10th to the 15th. The earliest we had it open was I think September 7th.
That's crazy. Iowa, you have all of October and November. It's archery only.
Yeah, I know it. I wish we would use that system, but North Carolina's not really known for trophy class deer and it's more of a numbers game than it is a quality management thing. And it really sucks for the guys that are like actually trying to have that quality hunting opposed to the guys that just want to go out and shoot a rack buck.
Is there any management where you're at, or is it kind of first deer I see, I'm taking?
Yeah, yeah. There's no regs on what size deer you can shoot. It could be a spike or it could be big. Most guys that I know of, they're shooting. I'm guilty of it too sometimes. Like if he comes in the right way, he's in trouble. But most guys are shooting 2 year olds, 3 year olds, and our 2 year old and 3 year olds out here are like 80 to 100 inches most of the time. They're just a right buck. They're there for fun. They took the weekend of Thanksgiving off, or they got it the week off from work, and they're going hunting. And that's the only time they hunt all year. And they shoot their 2 deer, and they're done.
It's hard for me to comprehend, but I suppose people that are strictly after meat, if a spike walks out and it's the first deer they see, they're probably going to take it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And we've got such a doe problem here. It's like there was a property that I hunted. It's the farm with the Christmas trees on it. Um, I was hunting back in a red, is like a white and red oak flat in the back of the property. I shot 3 does out of there. Then one afternoon, I shot 3 does, and I was packing up, and I had like 10 more. a whole different doe group come off this other side of this mountain and came in. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it's like that everywhere. The doe, no one manages for does. I mean, me and my few friends, we shoot does, but most guys, they'll shoot a spike or a rack buck of any size and they won't shoot the does at all.
Yeah, I try to sympathize if they're meat hunters, and there's probably a lot of hunters that they wanna shoot a buck, they don't care as long as it's a buck, and they'll shoot a spike buck just because they want a buck.
I was thinking about this after dinner. If guys, even if it was just their weekend or like their week off to hunt or whatever, if they would just shoot a few does, our quality of bucks would be so much better in my area. And I mean, I know that's like statewide, but most guys that I've talked to, they ask me like, "Why you shoot does all the time?" I don't shoot any does because I want my bucks to be breeding those does, and I'm like, chances are they're not. There's too many does, so he's going to get run ragged off of the doe group that he's got. He's not going to travel any. He's going to stay in his little doe harem. He's going to breed all them, and then by the time he's done with that, he's done breeding. He don't care to go out and chase does anymore. And unless one of the fawns come in hot later on in the season, he's not traveling anywhere. And they want to argue with me about that. And I'm like, it's not likely that, the buck that you're seeing 2 miles down the road is going to show up on your property chasing the doe because he's got 50 does around him every evening in this field. Why is he going to leave that to come over here? Unless he just chases that one doe out of his doe harem into this property, it's not likely.
More competition for food too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bucks like to be secluded. If there's too many deer around, the big ones, they'll go somewhere else.
Yeah. I've noticed that. I mean, so whenever, because, I live in a bait state, property dependent, if I can get my truck to it, I'm baiting somewhere on the property. Um, what I've noticed is those, if you put bait out, the does will hit it first. They'll eat it down to next to nothing. And then your mature buck's going to come in, eat what little bit's there because there's no more deer coming to it. And then he's going to go on his way.
Very fascinating. Does baiting work as good as somebody from a non-baiting state thinks?
No, think of a food plot. You got a half-acre food plot. Okay. So, based off of your wind and, thermal pull or whatever, just say you're going off a wind direction alone. So, say you've got a north wind or wind coming out of the north, you're going to set on either like the middle or the south side of your plot. And generally, you're going to be pretty good. Your bait pile, even if you spread it out into like a 10-foot radius, your food plot now is condensed and they're going to circle all the way around it, especially your big deer. They're going to circle that thing all the way and then come into it. Unless it's opening weekend, he knows it's danger. He's lived around him his whole life. He's going to circle all around it. And if he catches just a whiff of human scent in there, he's gone. See ya. And he won't come back to it in the daylight, period. The only other time, if it's not open weekend, a bait pile works for mature buck. It's during the rut and he's got a hot doe that he's locked down with. She's going to come into the bait pile and you'll be able to kill him then. His guard will be down. Other than that, the chances are really low if you miss that chance.
Moving on, I'm sure this is a real nice segue. So, looking back at all your years hunting and kind of reflect, what's something you would change, or would you change anything about how you grew up hunting? And
Think um I think it's helped me appreciate it more now because, used to whenever I was younger, every chance I got to go out and hunt, I'd be out there in it. and it could be 90 degrees, it could be raining, didn't matter, I was going. And now I can take all that experience and use it now as in, well, I remember whenever I was, 25 and I went out and I was hunting and it was 98 degrees and I saw a freaking spike doing whatever he was doing in acorns or whatever. Maybe, maybe I'll set this one out. Or, hey, it's Halloween, just got a rain front, bucks are going to be up. Might be time to consider, taking a couple days off work to go be in the woods. I can kind of pick and choose my best hunting windows now, opposed to whenever I was younger and I just wanted to go.
Do you think your mission statement has changed in terms of a lot of I think a lot of people think the same way as me. There's kind of a point where I got out of high school and into college where I was kind of an ego hunter. All I wanted was that big deer.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, my mindset towards that has changed. I still like to go out and hunt and shoot the big one, but if I just see the big one, that's a win for me. I know I'm gonna have meat in the freezer. I'm gonna shoot some does. That's to me, that's the most fun afternoon until you have to work them up anyway. If you're sitting in a tree and you got a bunch of does coming in and they just won't stop coming in, you're just sitting there shooting and shooting and shooting. Dude, that's the most fun I think that you can have. But if I'm after a buck and if it's my target buck, if I just see it once, dude, I don't have to kill it. I get in a little bit of I get a little bloodthirsty every once in a while still, and I'm trying to fight that. But the ego thing is it's definitely toning down as I get older. Like I seen that big one in Virginia, and I just seeing him that one time I was like, oh my gosh, he is real. Like this is actually a real life animal in front of me. It's incredible.
It was almost, I'm sure you went through the same thing, almost failure if you didn't shoot a giant deer. And now I'm 37 and it's like a vacation getting away from work and escaping reality and just being out there.
Yeah. Oh, I agree with that. Getting just to be able to go out and watch the sun come up and sun go down, even if it's cold, you know, I wouldn't change or trade that for anything. And, this year I was fortunate. I was tagged out in both states. I kept tagged out in North Carolina and in Virginia, and I tagged out early. And it was almost like a shock because I've normally have to grind it all year from start of season to end of season to fill both tags. And this was the second season since I've been hunting that I've tagged out ever. And it was hard for me to wind it down, but once I got it cut off and I was able to sit back and just kind of like enjoy it, oh man, it was incredible. Like not having to feel like I have to keep pushing just to meet a quota for the internet kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm sure my opinions are different than everybody else's. The definition of a hunter versus a killer. To me, a killer, they don't care how it gets done.
They want it dead.
They want it dead. They want the trophy on the wall or the freezer full, which is fine. But a hunter, it's about the journey to get there. So I thought of that when you said you tagged out early. A killer is probably like, oh, thank God I'm done. I got it. Hunter's probably a little disappointed that they don't get to spend any more time in the woods.
Dude, so it got so bad that I went out and set up a ground blind just so I can watch deer. I got a big cattle pasture that during like the later on into the season, the deer will go from an ag field to an oak flat, and they'll just go back and forth. So I went out and set up a ground blind just so I could sit out there and watch them, just because I just felt so, I don't know, it was so hard for me to just sit at home and not be out in the woods, especially like I tagged out early November in Virginia, and I tagged out here November 2nd. So I was like just clawing at the walls to get outside and just to go be out in the woods. I finally just had to be like, listen, I can't consume any hunting content. I can't listen to any hunting podcasts. I can't do anything if I want to dial this back so I'm not foaming at the mouth just to go outside.
I'd almost bet in 6 or 7 years, you're probably gonna be you're probably gonna enjoy being out there watching more than actually behind the gun.
Yeah, I plan on getting my daughter involved in it really early on. Every buck that I shot, she was just so into it. Like I've got some mounts in the living room, and every day she has to go touch them and feel them and look at them and stuff. And she gets mad if she doesn't get that. So I think she's got it. She's already got it in her from me. I think she's going to be very involved in hunting whenever she gets older.
I don't even have my own kids, but I have nieces and nephews, and unless there's gi a giant buck out there, it's a little bit different, but I'd rather take the kids out hunting.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, I did get to take a youth hunter. He's interested in going, and I got to take him out on a hunt. Uh, that was, I think, the week before Thanksgiving, and we seen some bucks, and he didn't know because I had some really nice deer on camera on that property, and I was like, man, I don't. Shoot one if you want to, because it's your first deer. But I was like showing him the camera pictures. I'm like, how cool would it be if you killed one of these right here? And he's like, I'll wait. And I actually ended up getting in a stupid car wreck with my truck, and I wasn't able to take him after that. But this upcoming season, I'm going to help him set up a bow and get him up in a stand with me and see if I can get him a nice buck with his bow.
Yeah, it's funny how getting older and being around kids makes you I call it soft, but
Yeah, a little softer. Like before, even just a couple years ago, I didn't want anyone in the stand with me. I wanted to be hunting by myself. I'm after the big one. Leave me alone. I'm not coming out until I kill him, kind of thing. But now it's ah, if I kill him, I kill him. If I don't, I don't. It's I leave that up to God, and not that's not my thing.
there you go, good stuff. Well, I'm gonna try doing some different stuff to wrap up the episodes. I know I shared a little bit with you what we're gonna do, but I just thought of a couple things that I might try. So, before we get to the embarrassing stories, I think I have 4 or 5. We're gonna do rapid fire, just short answers, and I might try locking down 5 questions for every guest. So, first one, best gear purchase you've ever made, something you'd never be able to hunt without?
So my wife got me. It is a screw-in cup holder. Think about all right. So it's camo. I have an energy drink addiction. I have a caffeinated beverage every time I go into the woods. And she got me this screw-in cup holder, and I put it just beside my because like my backpacks, deer coming in, you're just throwing that drink in there and it's gonna spill and make a mess. Well, now I can just put my drink up. I'm good. It's not going anywhere, and then I can hunt.
You gotta get the grunt tube out.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, next question. Most gimmicky or worst piece of hunting gear that you ever bought? That was a waste of money.
Uh, 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 uh. I would say this is. I was really young whenever I had this, but the cough tube. You ever see that? Like you cough into it, it's supposed to muffle the sound. Yeah, that didn't work.
Okay, next one. Most controversial hunting hot take.
uh, Bait piles don't kill big deer.
I I would agree with you. Next one. Most underrated hunting tactic.
This one's tough. Um, you can doing less is more, as in you don't you don't have to overdo it whenever you're hunting. Keep it simple, stupid kind of thing.
Perfect. And the last one, we're going to say there's two components to success in the deer woods. You got your skill, you got your luck. What's the percentage breakdown? Luck versus skill.
I'm gonna say 25% skill, 75% luck. You might be able to find where they're at, but you still have to get them within range. The only thing that's gonna cause that to happen is luck.
And you got to be lucky enough to have them in your area.
Yep, that's it. That's my biggest thing. You can't kill big bucks if you live in an area that doesn't have that quality of deer.
That's kind of fun. That's the first time I ever did that.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed that. I wasn't, I don't think a lot about stuff like that, like tactics and gear and stuff like that. I've had the same gear for a while now. I almost dropped a bomb on the best gear that I got. I just don't crucify me, but I got switched my gear out and I got Sitka this year, and I had like the Ridge Reaper Under Armour camo, and I wore it for years and years and years. I loved it. When I switched to Sitka this year, I found got a good deal on Facebook Marketplace and got a bunch. And man, those cold days ain't too bad whenever you got the Sitka bibs and the big jacket on. Well, I was able to sit in a tree and it sub 10 degrees for a couple days in a row. And that was pretty nice.
No crucifixion right here, man. I went from Under Armour to Sitka.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I still got one of my Under Armour shirts right here. Under Armour's great for turkey hunting, by the way.
It doesn't stop much wind
No,
at all.
no, no, man. I hunted in Illinois with my Under Armour camo, and I don't know how I did it because I got cold and I got frostbite like the second year I went out there on my hands. And I was like, man, this Under Armour stuff just ain't cutting it.
40 degrees with the 20-mile-an-hour wind, you're shivering.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I don't remember when it was. It was like 18 degrees. I was sitting next to a river, and like the wind chill was like minus whatever. And I took a picture and sent it to my friend, and my beard was froze where I was like sweaty and snotty walking in. My whole beard froze up and everything. It was rough.
Under Armour is not very good.
No, no. Great for turkey hunting. I will say that the green Under Armour camo is really good for turkey, but it sucks for cold weather. Sucks so bad.
I would agree. All right, we're not going to let you off the hook. So before we wrap this up, we need one or two of your most embarrassing hunting stories.
Okay, I've got one where I uh, had a little. I don't drink anymore, but I had a little too much to drink the night before, and I had a really upset stomach the next morning, and I mixed some nicotine and caffeine with the residual alcohol in my belly, and it was not good. And had to do the number two out of the tree. And I actually had a friend with me, and he was still on the ground, and he said it was like a mist. He said it was more of a mist than a number two. So that's one that was pretty rough.
Did he get any on him?
No, thankfully, because I told him I was like, dude, I ain't gonna make it because he's about to climb up the tree. And by the time I said that, I was already pulling my pants down, and he was like backed way up. And he said it was the worst smell, and it was more of a mist than anything.
Did he have to walk through it to get up the ladder?
So I had like pointed in the opposite direction so it didn't get on the tree. We were hunting. I got a lone wolf custom gear stand, so we was hunting out of my stand, and I had one of his hang-ons with it. So I just like pointed the other way and sent it off the side of the tree. Great scent control product. If he's wondering, well, he didn't get winded all morning, but that's one. And I would say the other one, it's embarrassing because it's not really a funny thing. Um, it's more of embarrassing because I should have knew better. The buck I shot in Virginia, the first one. Now, mind you, I live within half a mile of Virginia state line. Dude, I was so jacked over this thing. I drove it home, took pictures of it. I drove it across state lines. Local game warden called me. He's like, "Man, please tell me you did not do this." And I was like, "Oh no, I'm in trouble, ain't I?" He's like, "I'm gonna have to write you a ticket." So that's another one. Hey, don't drive deer across state lines.
You can't drive them across, or you didn't have it tagged?
You know, so the deer was legally everything was right. I just didn't cape him out and skull cap him and process the meat in Virginia before I drove it home. I brought the whole deer home and took pictures of it in my backyard. And, you know, I've got 5 acres here at my house. So I was able to just dispose of the carcass and everything on my property, which Virginia deer come and go as they do because I'm so close to the line anyway. Um, but legally, you're not supposed to transport a full deer from one state to another state because of disease and stuff like that.
But if you would have quartered it out, you would have been fine, or you would have had to get the whole thing processed in Virginia?
If I'd have, you know, parted him out, like deboned him, got all the good meat off of him and skull capped him and drove him home then, I'd have been fine. But instead, I brought the whole deer home because, you know, I shot one of my best deer here locally at next to nothing under me. I was so jacked out of my mind that I was ready to get home, take pictures with my daughter, do all the fun stuff, and then work him up and be done with it. And I posted pictures on my social media of the deer, and somebody had reported it to the game warden. Idiot.
They could see the tag or what?
They could just tell that it was like my backyard instead of in Virginia. I got like this 3D target in my backyard, my big shed. So those two things were in the picture, and they're in the pictures with all the other deer. So I guess they put one and one together, and
Obviously,
uh,
somebody that kind of knows you.
I would imagine so.
Douchebags.
Yeah, it was said that it was like a jealous act, but I should have knew better.
Well, there you
So
have it.
yeah, embarrassing for me because I try to do everything by the books, and I goofed on that one.
I think anybody would make that mistake. But all right. Well, listeners, I appreciate you sticking around for another episode. If you made it this far, make sure to subscribe. We're trying to break this 100 downloads per episode mark. So if you subscribe and we get up to 100 downloads per episode, I'll send everybody a basket full of apples.
Hey, I can use those as bait.
There you go, man. All right. I appreciate it. We'll be in touch.